Good morning, all. I would like to call this meeting to order and welcome everyone this morning. Welcome to all members of council and our staff that will provide us facts and information so that we can make decisions in the best interest of all residents in our municipality, full-time permanent residents and part-time residents, seasonal. Welcome also to the members of the public that are joining us this morning and the media that may be in attendance. I would like to indicate that meetings of council are live streamed on the Township's official website in accordance with the live streaming and virtual participation of meetings policy. Do any members of council have a pecuniary interest or general nature thereof to indicate at this time of any agenda item that we have today? Thank you very much for that. And we do have a set of minutes to approve, that being of the third day of February of our council meeting minutes. And I would entertain a mover and a seconder for these. That is Deputy Mayor Vanstone and Councillor Hickey seconds. That Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Township Council hereby adopts the February 3rd, 2026 council meeting minutes as written. Do we have any questions on these minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you. Open forum is an opportunity for any members of the public to make any comments that they would care to regarding any agenda item that we have today. If you'd like to make any comments, please go to the microphone, indicate your first and last name and the agenda item that you would like to address. Seeing none, we do have a delegation this morning, and that being a zoning bylaw amendment, and so I will entertain a mover and a seconder to adjourn our council meeting at this time. Councillor Forrester moves, Councillor Miltenberg seconds, that Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Council hereby adjourns the regular council meeting and opens a public meeting to review zoning bylaw amendment application Z02-2025 Shetler. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. Thank you. I would like to call our public meeting to order and ask if any members of council have a pecuniary interest or general nature thereof to indicate at this time of this agenda item. Hearing none, this is regarding the zoning bylaw amendment application file ACW Z02-2025 Shetler. Our planner, Megan Tidhernick, has provided us background information on this application, and I would invite her now to address council and the public on this application. Welcome, Megan.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Just give me a second while I set up my screen here. Okay, good morning, Mayor and members of council. Today we have an application for a rezoning on Glens Hill Road. Here we have the aerial photo of the subject property. You can see that the majority of the property is covered by natural heritage features. Here we have the subject property highlighted in orange. The blue and white kind of hatched area is designated provincially significant wetland. And then the yellow outline is where we are proposing to rezone for the development of a house. So in circulation of this application, we had no comments from neighboring properties. ACW staff reviewed the minimum distance separation requirements from neighboring farms, and there was no concerns that way. MVCA did review the EIS that was submitted as part of the complete application, and they noted that the development is proposed to be outside of the wetland, so there was no concerns with that. The Huron County biologist also reviewed the EIS. There was a tree inventory and protection plan and restoration plan that was suggested out of that EIS. So that will be implemented. And they also suggested that 50 native trees be replanted along the edges in various areas, just to kind of help with the trees that will be removed for the development. So the provincial planning statement states that development shall not be permitted in significant wetlands unless it has been demonstrated that there will be no negative impacts on the natural features or their ecological functions. The same can be said for the Huron County official plan and ACW official plan. And this is why there was an environmental impact study that was completed as part of the complete application. So from that EIS, there are really no alternative locations that exist on this property. It is entirely forested and or wetland. So there was a clearing that was perhaps minimal clearing that would be done. So this is where we have looked to rezone. It is outside of that provincially significant wetland, as well as that tree inventory and replanting plan. So the applicant is aware of that. We have worked with the county forester. He has been out on site and kind of come up with a plan for when it goes to building permit, what will be the outcome of that. So with all of that being said, it is recommended that ACW approve the zoning bylaw amendment application on the basis that the effects of constructing the single residential dwelling within the natural environment zone have been addressed and will be mitigated.
Thank you very much, Megan, for this. And this is a public meeting being held under the Planning Act, which requires that the council hold at least one public meeting and that proper notice be given, and notice was given on the 27th day of January 2026. We have received the comments from our county planner. Would the applicant and or agent care to make any comments at this time? Okay. Is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition to this application at this time? Is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of this application at this time? Hearing none, I'll open it up to council if there are any questions or comments on this application. Councillor Miltenberg, please.
I just have one question. It's more about procedure. I mean, it looks like a straightforward yes to me. So what happens if we say yes? Is there another 30 days where people get to, or does the county have to approve it? Or I can't keep these applications straight. So if we say yes, what does that mean? And I'm saying yes, by the way. I'm just curious what it means.
Okay, I'll ask Megan to comment on that, please.
So procedurally, there is a 20-day appeal period after the fact. That is it is not for members of the public, but could be for agencies. I don't expect there to be any appeals, but you never know. And then it will come into effect after the 20-day appeal period is over.
Okay, thank you. So I would like to indicate, is there any other questions or comments from council? Seeing none. If a person or public body that files an appeal of a decision of ACW Township in respect to the proposed rezoning but does not make written or oral submissions before the proposed rezoning is adopted, the Ontario Land Tribunal, in brackets OLT, may dismiss all or part of the appeal. It is the recommendation of the county of the ACW on our planner's recommendation. It is recommended that ACW Council approve the zoning bylaw amendment Z02-2025. And I will ask for a show of hands from council if we are in support of that for consideration in section 18 of the bylaw. And that is supported by council. Thank you. Megan, what would the effect of public and agency comments on this decision be, please?
So it will be 2A. No public comments were received on this application, so there was no effect on the decision. And 3B, agency comments were received in support of the application, the effect of which resulted in a decision to approve.
Okay, thank you very much. So I will again ask for a show of hands if council is in support of the public and agency comments in this decision being 2A and 3B. And that is supported by council. Thank you. And thank you very much, Megan, for this. Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Yeah, and this, I'm just asking this because Ben Van Diepenbeek, our former Reeve, asked it once and the number was wrong. The bylaw ends with a 25, but this is 26. Are bylaws done by when they start or when we pass them?
Thank you. I'll defer to our clerk, please.
So the bylaw itself will be a 2026 number. The application was received and payment was submitted in 2025. So that's why it has that application number.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the process following the public meeting is, and the zoning bylaw procedure following the public meeting is that this is a public meeting. not a council meeting. Therefore, a decision of council may or not be made this morning. If the bylaw is passed, the clerk must send notice of the passing of the bylaw to all persons notified of this meeting and to any person or public body that has requested it. There is a 20-day objection period from the time notice of passing has been sent, where submissions will be received by the clerk. If an objection is received, an appeal is lodged with the Ontario Land Tribunal, OLT, and the municipality no longer has jurisdiction of the file and or the processing time of it. You may only file an appeal if you have submitted oral or written comments prior to the decision of council. The fee for filing an appeal is $1,100, payable by certified check or money order in Canadian funds made out to the Minister of Finance and must be accompanied by appellant form in brackets A1. If council does not pass the bylaw, the applicant may appeal to the OLT. If the bylaw is passed and no objections are received within the 20-day appeal period, the clerk will certify that the bylaw is in force and effect and is of this date of its passing, and notice is forwarded to the planning department and to the applicant. With that, I would entertain a mover and a seconder to close our public meeting. Councillor Miltenberg and Councillor Blake seconds that Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Township Council closes the public meeting. I will now entertain a motion to reconvene our regular council meeting. And Councillor Forrester and Councillor Blake, that council reconvene the regular council meeting. All in favor of this motion? And that is carried. Thank you. Again, we have a public meeting for the building permit fees and charges adjustments. Council has been provided with the notice to amend the fees and charges for building permits. The changes proposed as provided at the December 16th meeting of council, and as well the fee bylaw in section 18 to authorize the amendments to the fee and charges of the said bylaw. The Building Code Act requires the council hold at least one public meeting and that proper notice be given of its intent to consider a bylaw to amend the fee schedule for services rendered under the Building Code Act. Council has already endorsed this, and notice of the public meeting was issued in accordance with section 7 and bracket 6 of the Building Code Act, section 1.9, 1.2 of Ontario Regulation 332-12, and the Township of Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Notice of Bylaw on January 7th, 2026. Comments are welcome from the public prior to the adoption of such building fees and charges. Are there any comments from the public on this item? Hearing none, I will ask for a show of hands if council is in support of consideration of this in section 18 as a bylaw. Question absolutely first, Councillor Snowden, please.
Is it appropriate at this time to ask questions on this report, or later on in the meeting when we come to the approval?
Clerk, please.
I think now's an appropriate time.
Okay, please.
Then I do have a brief comment and then just a few questions. So when this was brought to council a few weeks ago, I expressed at that time some concern that we were increasing fees and amendment charges, or charges, I guess, because of the economic climate that we're currently in. And I've gone on record several times saying that come budget time, I'm going to be very cautious about what I agree to in terms of budget increases this year because of the economic climate and the erratic actions by other leaders outside of Canada. So having said that, in looking at some of the suggestions on the compensation fees, I am reconsidering my comments that I made back in December on this, but I do have a few questions before I agree to approve this. Is that there are a few that stand out as being increased significantly. I wonder if there's some background information that staff could give us on that in terms of why the proposed fee amendment is quite a bit higher than what maybe others are having show on their fee schedules.
Okay, I will defer to staff for this. Joy, please.
So as presented in the earlier report when we brought this to council, we have compared to the other municipalities to make sure that we are keeping in line and comparing, not going more than what our neighboring municipalities are charging for building permits. The sole purpose of this is to ensure that as the building department operates separately from the budget of the township, that we maintain our budget without going over, to make sure that there isn't a load on the taxpayer. It is solely paid by the users. And that would be the permit applicants.
Okay, thank you. Continue, please, Councillor Snowden.
And thank you for that. I do understand that, and I think that that was commented on by possibly yourself or the CAO at the time in December, that it's sort of a user pay, meaning that you're only going to pay these increased prices if you're building something, correct? So I guess some questions I have are, what other municipalities did you compare this with? Is it within Huron County, or did you go into Bruce County?
Okay, thank you for that. Joy, please.
So we compared with all of Huron County's municipalities, as well as 3 municipalities of Bruce County.
Okay, thank you. Please continue.
And then you came up with sort of an average of those other municipalities, when in the report it says the average of surrounding municipalities. That's the average then. Okay.
Correct.
So if I could ask on one particular classification, it's new farm buildings and additions, liquid manure. The current is $2,010 and the proposed is $2,580. And I see the average of the surrounding municipalities is $1,722. I'm not sure, there's probably a good explanation for it, but I'm not educated well enough to know why that proposed increase is so much greater than it is now, as well as the average of the surrounding municipalities, when our current fee is above the average already.
Okay, thank you. Joy, please.
So we chose to go with the CIP from 2020 to 2026 to increase all the building permit fees across the board. That way it is reflecting what effort is going into each of these. Some of them are a little bit higher, some of them are still a little bit lower, and it washes out across the board to keep the budget going.
So just so that I can clarify then, you've based the recommended proposed fee increase amendment based on the consumer price index, which is roughly around 2 or 2.5%. Is that about right?
Because we have not raised it in so long, that adds up to over 18% now.
I'm sorry, what was that?
It's 18% now
18%.
because it's from 2020 to 2026.
Oh, so you accrued it then, the
Yes.
CIP then. Okay. Well, it's always good to know how you base your data. I guess I was thinking, again, coming from an uneducated point of view, I was thinking that a new farm building or addition that had liquid manure required more in-depth work on the part of the building department. So I was assuming that that's where I was coming from. And that's where I thought maybe the additions or the fee amendments were coming from. So the fact that it's based on the consumer price index, I don't have a problem with, but I'm kind of struggling with the accruement of it, even though it hasn't been done since 2020, 5 years. Particularly when the proposed fee is higher than the average. I wonder if you could help me reconcile that or help me understand that.
Okay, thank
So-
you. Joy, please.
So liquid manure buildings do require more prep and more report reading than other manure buildings, just because there is more risk to the soil and there is more work in the minimum distance separation to make sure that these buildings are not affecting their neighbors.
Okay, continue, please.
I'm not sure that you can answer my next question because it's maybe a little bit open-ended, but in terms of economic growth within the township, do you foresee that any of these increases in building fees may put a slight dent or halt on some economic growth in terms of building new farm buildings and additions, particularly as it relates to liquid manure, but also some other renovations to existing buildings?
Joy, please.
No, I don't see this making a resistance to more growth in the community. It will be what, of course, the economic climate is, but we do have to cover costs.
Mhm. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Any other questions, council? If not, I'll again just ask for a show of hands if we are in support for consideration of this in section 18 as a bylaw. And that is supported by council. Thank you. On to the Treasury Department. 6.1 is the payment of the current accounts, and I would entertain a mover and a seconder for these, please. Deputy Mayor Vanstone moves. Councillor Hickey seconds that Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Township Council hereby authorizes the payment of the February 2026 accounts as presented. Do we have any questions on any of these numbers? Councillor Forrester first, please.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. I have 3 questions here. Page 12, Wade Lowry, is that for snow blowing? Or what was that all about?
And I'll defer to our staff, please. Tom, Public Works.
Yeah, so if you see any invoices from Wade Lowry or Daryl Gibson, it's for snow blowing. That's we had a lot of major banks that we had issues getting through, and to try and keep the roads open, we get the snow blowers in.
Okay, thank you. So page 15, the Minister of Finance, that was for a chunk of change. I didn't understand what that was all about either.
Okay, thank you. CAO, please.
Yeah, if you look in the descriptions, like it tells you what
Yeah.
it says OPP.
Is that what that's for?
The first, there's 12 installments, and that's one of the installments.
Okay, so page 16, the municipality, so that was something to do with the OPP too.
Sorry, where are you?
Page 16, municipality of South Huron.
That's for our, whatever it's called, the Huron Detachment Police Services Board thing that we're part of.
Oh, okay, thank you. That's it.
Okay, any other questions? If not, we have a motion to approve, and I will entertain a show of hands if we're in support of this. And that is supported by council. Thank you. 6.2 is the payment of the previous month's accounts, and a mover and a seconder for these, please. Councillor Miltenberg moves, Councillor Snoblin seconds, that Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Township Council hereby approves the payment of the January 2026 accounts in the amount of $1,127,409.90. Do we have any questions on any of these lines? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you. 6.3 is the final revenue/expenditure reports for 2025. It is for information purposes. Do we have any questions for our treasurer on any of these numbers? Seeing none, thank you very much, Ellen, for compiling this for us. 2025 is the year-end transfer to reserves, and we have been provided this information by our treasurer, Ellen McManus, and I will entertain a mover and a seconder to transfer the amounts listed. Councillor Blake moves, Councillor Forrester seconds, that Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Council hereby agree to transfer the following amounts to reserves for the year ending December 31, 2025. Those being Nile Road Bridge number 43, $374,000, and the Ben Miller Playground of $50,000. Question, Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Not questioning the need to do it, just questioning now to save questions later. When I look at the budget that you're going to be preparing, and I'm assuming the exact numbers going forward are not going to be 374 and 350, will it be showing up like under the Nile Road as a, a credit and then more costs, or how will I see this?
Thanks for the question. Treasurer, please.
So, yes, the expense budgeted for 2026 will show up as an expense. And then the transfer from reserve will be whatever amount is available from the reserves coming in as revenue to offset the expense. But for like the Nile Road Bridge, for example, Tom has, I think the tender went through and it's going to be slightly more than that. So there will be a budgeted amount that'll be funded from either another reserve or taxes or.
Okay, thank you. Follow up.
So with Tom's report, we'll just see the amount that's left. Like we won't see, let's pretend it's 400. We won't see 300. We won't see 400. We'll see 26,000 or whatever, because that's what's left. Or how would, it's hard to track reserves and I'm trying to figure out, and you're doing a great job fixing it, so it's easier. I'm just.
Okay, thank you. Ellen, please.
So you mean like what you'll see in the reserve is what's left, or like the expense will show up as the total expense and not the net amount. So it'll be the total expense budgeted for the year for the project. So it will be 400 and whatever thousand.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further questions? We have a motion moved and seconded. All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you. 6.5 is a housing enabling water systems fund. It is the payment transfer agreement. And I will ask if there's any questions or comments on this. Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Comment, how frustrating. I have dealt with similar things with grants. I feel your pain. I do feel your pain. In the past, my experience has been that if you accept a transfer payment, you're accepting them as correct, and then you give up your rights to whatever else. It sounds like they've told us you don't have any rights to anything else. You take this or you get nothing, but we are pursuing it with a higher level, which may or may not be effective. Am I reading that properly?
Okay, I'll defer to our CEO, please.
Yeah, so I've talked to Lisa Thompson. I have my doubts whether we'll get anywhere, but she heard me. I told her I was very upset. I said, you announced all this money coming to us. This is the third take on it. We had to go ahead with the well house, so we went ahead with it. Couldn't wait forever to holding up development. And I actually indicated to her, I said, perhaps the provincial government is holding up development, not the municipality. So we had to go ahead. I said, you announced this funding. We got the funding, and now we're only going up $250,000. But I said, you still had the check presentation for 2.1. I said, it's not great. And I said, we're very disappointed. Perhaps you can talk to the Ministry of Infrastructure to see what can be done. And I said, your staff or the staff in the Ministry of Infrastructure knew very well that we had started the project, but they still said, and then what really upsets me more, and I'm going to go on a rant here, is that they said, well, why don't you spend more money? And then, well, you can spend more money on this. I'm thinking, we already built the well. Why would we spend more money that we don't need to spend just to get more money? It doesn't make any sense. So I share my comments with Lisa, and she knows me well that we just had a frank discussion similar as we're having right now. So hopefully something happened, but I'm not too confident that it will.
Not going to hold your breath. Okay. Any further questions or comments? And if not, I'll ask for a show of hands if we are in support of considering this in Section 18 as a bylaw. And that is supported by Council. Thank you. And thanks for all your efforts on this, Mark. 6.6 is the pothole prevention and repair program for 2025. Again, I'll open it up for any questions or comments to our Public Works Superintendent. Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Again, I'm not sure if this is the same thing where they announce new money and say, what have you done? We'll give you money for it. But your final line, C1.4, indicates it's for repairs that will be completed between April 1st, 2025 and March 31st, 2026. If we're talking about potholes, that kind of makes me think it's just retroactive. How are we going to fix potholes before March of 2026? Is that the right dates there? It is the right dates. Well, that's a disappointing announcement as well. Okay, thank you. Oh, Tom has a comment, I guess.
Tom, please.
So there's a wide variety of expenses that are available to use to get the funding. So I'm certain that we'll have $38,000 spent within that time frame. Grading counts, purchasing cold patch, purchasing gravel, all sorts of things. So it's fine.
Okay, Councillor Miltenberg, please.
I appreciate that comment and I understand it. However, I would say if this was an announcement to encourage pothole reduction, didn't do it, did it? Because you only got money for what you already did. So not impressed again. Put that on the record. Doesn't matter to the rest of us. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions or comments? And if not, I'll again ask if council is in support of consideration of this in section 18 as a bylaw. Show of hands, please. As and that is approved by council. Thank you. 6.7 is a consolidated fee bylaw update, and that is for the building fees and inclusion of the short-term rentals, a licensing fee, and highlighted for our reference. Is there any questions or comments on this? Seeing none, again, I'll ask for a show of hands if we were in support of consideration of this in section 18 as a bylaw. And that is supported by council. Thank you. Planning Department, the notice of appeal, VO4-2025 Yancey, and it is to make council aware that the township has received a notice of appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal from Matthew Yancey in the decision of the Committee of Adjustment related to the file MVO4-2025 Yancey. And with the submission of this notice, staff has submitted the required documentation to the OLT, and staff will keep council apprised of the proceedings, and this is for information purposes. 8.1 is the Chief Building Official's report. Do we have any questions or comments of Joy on her report, please? It is for information purposes. 9.1 is the OMERS governance changes, and staff have provided a very detailed report on this, and it is recommended by staff to us that we adopt the draft resolution provided and ask the Government of Ontario to reconsider the advisability of proceeding with these changes with the OMERS governance. Do we have any questions or comments? And I'll go first to Councillor Snoblin, please.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the report that was provided. As I mentioned at the last meeting that at Roma, this was a presentation that was made that I did attend, and it was very informative and really good questions and really good answers. But as I mentioned at our previous council meeting, I was kind of disappointed that it only came from the labor side, from the employee side on that presentation, and it didn't reflect anything on why this was happening through the government. So this Bill 68. So I did a little bit deeper dive after I saw this on the agenda today, and I looked at, the whole Bill 68, although I didn't read the whole amount. And I've also come across Hicks Morley, who have commented on this. And what I'm doing and what I'm finding out from this deeper dive is that there's more to it than what the presentation at Roma indicated. And some of the key changes is that they want the administrative corporation to have a greater level of authority and set compensation levels for council members. So reflecting on that, I thought, I wonder why they're setting limitations on compensation levels on council members. Is there a problem? I can't find any proof of that, but why would you put that in there unless there was a problem? The Hicks Morley report also indicated that communications, transparency, and engagement were key themes during the consultation with some stakeholders, complaining about those elements lacking or having gaps under the current structure. And transparency was one of the things that, one of the key components that seemed to surface in a lot of the reading that I had done. One of the other things that made at the presentation at Roma, they highlighted quite often, was that the OMERS people didn't see this coming. The report was completed on December, and within the next day, the changes were made and Bill 68 was introduced. They were blindsided. They had no knowledge of this. I did do a little deeper dive on that. The OMERS pension plan has not been amended since 2006. There was a Dean report in 2013 that indicated some changes should be made. And the Poiré report that OMERS was saying that they were blindsided by was commenced in December of 2024, and it concluded in September of 2025. So the fact that the OMERS pension plan people didn't know about this seems highly suspicious to me. So, and the Bill 68 was introduced in December. So I'm unsure why they felt blindsided by that, but perhaps there's something I'm not aware of. I'm not in that circle. I just have a hard time endorsing this when I don't feel that I know all the ins and outs, and I see some gaps when I do a little bit deeper dive. I don't feel that it's my responsibility as a municipal councillor to ask the government to override something that I feel has not been fully vetted and exposed for all the reasons why it should be amended. And Bill 68, by the way, is a huge bill. I was trying to read most of it. I stopped at about 100 pages, but anyway, I don't feel comfortable supporting this, and it has nothing to do with the report. It only has something to do with my responsibilities as a municipal councillor. I feel that it's not up to me to make these suggestions or amendments. This is something between the OMERS pension fund people and the Ontario government, and if they're trying to drag municipal elected officials and employees into this, I feel it's more of a lobby rather than something that needs to be changed or informative. So I'll be voting against this.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further questions or comments? Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Well, first of all, thanks Anita for the deep dive, which just makes you go, because I haven't seen the deep dive. I never heard of Hicks Morley until you said it. So, I mean, while I appreciate the information that you have, I don't have that information. So a couple things caught my mind, or my ear, or whatever is going on in here this morning. That Bill 68 has a lot of things in it, and it's moving fairly quickly. And while I appreciate your comments, and they should be addressed, I think it will be too late after a bill is passed. If there's a lot of things in that bill, do what they all do and say, okay, let's take this out and this out. And that's basically put you on notice, and then it comes back in a different fashion. So I think if, much like the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority, there might be issues, but that's not the way to fix it. So you put us on notice that something needs to change, but let's work together to change it rather than this. So for that reason, I would be voting for this.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? I think it is to note that AMO has researched this very in-depth also, and has concerns that have been expressed on this. And AMO represents all of the municipalities within the province of Ontario. So I will ask if there is a mover and a seconder for this motion. A move by Councillor Miltenberg, seconder. Your seconder for it? If not, it fails. Okay, thank you. Under the water department, there's nothing, or drainage or public works. We have the on-call pay policy, and I will ask if council has any questions or comments of this, and I'll go first to Councillor Forster, please.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. On what hour basis is this based on, like an 8-hour workday?
Okay, Tom, please.
Yeah, so the existing on-call policy is based on 8 hours per day. If you're scheduled to work and you're full-time and it's during the week, that would not be available for the on-call.
So this is just for part-time employees for weekends or?
No, it's part-time and full-time. It's so that they're ready and available to come in on the weekends.
Perfect. Thank you. Deputy Mayor, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Then, Tom, this is, how does this work? Is this all days in the week, or is this just weekends and nights? Like during the day shift, how does this work? I'd like to get a little bit more information on it if I could, please.
Thank you. Tom, please.
So if you look at the table, last year we spent $3,136 because it was snowing constantly. The guys came in. So if you come in, you don't get any on-call pay. If you're on the schedule for the weekend, you would be eligible.
Sorry. So it's mainly only for weekends then, or say after 5. So if you got a guy on call that has to go in from, I don't know what time the guys are done. I'm thinking 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock. So if, from 4 to midnight, if you needed somebody to come in for some reason, is that on call or is that not on call?
Tom, please.
It's based on an 8-hour day, and like we've had people off on short-term leave, and we might have had to have part-timers cover spans. And if it's not snowing, they might be eligible for some on-call pay.
One more, if I may. I guess the other question was, and don't get me wrong, I'm not against on-call pay because like where I worked, we had on-call too. Not to this extent, but we did have on-call. And why did we go from 3 till 6? I can see, a lesser amount, or, is there a reason you doubled it instead of just going up $1 or $2?
Tom, please.
I think looking at the, if we look at the part-timers that we have in now, whom I really appreciate, and I think they're very skilled, I've got 7 of them with 0 plowing experience. I'm trying to get people to return after a year instead of just training people to plow and then away they go. We looked at how much other people are paying for being on call at other locations. The $24 to sit around for an entire day, I felt was not enticing. So, is there an exact mathematic equation to figure out exactly what we should be paying? I don't know, but this is my best attempt at doing that.
Okay, thank you. CAO, please.
I just want to comment too. I think having someone on call on the weekends is very important. And I think $24 didn't sound like enough, but 48 sounds a little bit better. I don't know what that magical number is, but we have to retain and attract folks in the future. And I know if you're going to be on call on the weekend, you have to be on call. You can't go to Kitchener shopping. You can't go here. You can't go there. You're committed to stay around home, and you could be called out in the morning, or you could be called out in the afternoon. So I think it's worth something.
Exactly. Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Yeah, I agree with the report, by the way. We were running into this problem in the Lucknow Joint Rec Board with lifeguards. They would come, they would go somewhere else the next year. Competitive wage didn't help. So we put in a policy that we paid them even $1 or $2 more than the next person, and we helped actually to train them. We paid for their lifeguarding stuff if they would commit to doing it for us. And we used to really struggle to get lifeguards, and we don't anymore. And I think when we're as rural and far from everybody else as we are, we have to incentivize. We do. We can't just be the same because it's easier to go someplace else. So I totally concur. And I personally would not take $48 an hour to be on call. I wouldn't take 24 either. I like my weekends, but I'm old. So I think that 48 is not an unreasonable number. Thank you.
CA, thank you for that. CO, please.
Just want to clarify, it's not $48 an hour. Yeah, I just want to
I
say
meant
that.
Right.
$48 for the day. You're right. Yes.
I just, folks are watching us right now at home. They're saying $48 an hour. I'll take 48.
Yeah, let me clarify that. I would sit home for $48 an hour. I won't do it for the day. Thank you.
Right on. So this is for the day, and it is to retain our employees and that are expected to be on call, and they make sacrifices for this. So I'm going to ask for a show of hands if we're in support of this, and we'll come back to a future meeting as a policy. And that is supported by council. Thank you. We have a gravel, no, I'm sorry, Public Works employee appointment under 12.2. And I will, is there any questions on this? And if not, I'll ask for a show of hands from council if we're in support of consideration of this in section 18 as a bylaw. And that is supported by council. Thank you. We have a gravel tender for 2026 that we've all read, and that is that council accept the tender from Johnson Brothers Limited by adopting the following motion. I'll entertain a mover and a seconder for this, please. Councillor Forrester and Councillor Blake seconds at Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Township Council accept the lowest bid received from Johnson Brothers Bothwell Limited and authorize pre-budget approval to supply, crush, load, haul, and spread granular A crushed gravel in the amount of $796,039.80, including HST. Any questions on this? All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you. Similarly, we have the calcium tender for 2026, and that being the council accept the tender from Daily Dust Control Limited by adopting the following motion. I will entertain a mover and a seconder for this. Councillor Blake moves. Councillor Miltenberg seconds at Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh accept the lowest bid received from Daily Dust Control Limited and authorize pre-budget approval in the amount of $229,653, including HST, to supply and apply approximately 475 tons of liquid calcium chloride for 2026. Do we have any questions on this? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you. 12.5 is the Ashfield landfill site operations. Councillor Hickey had brought this up at a previous meeting, and the purpose of this is to produce a report that would recommend alterations to the operating days at the Ashfield-Colborne land site and what that would involve in a consolidated bylaw. So what this is doing is to ask staff to bring back a report on this. Any questions or comments? Councillor Hickey, please.
Thank you. I have a couple comments and then a question. Just a little background information on this. It says in the report, the private hauler has reached out to staff. After he spoke to staff, he still wasn't content, so he reached out to myself to bring this issue forward. To give a little background on him, he has, I forget, approximately 10 to 12 bins through the township ACW. So any given week, there could be 3, 4, maybe 5 bins that have to be dumped on a weekly basis. So he was dumping them on Saturday. And it's not efficient for him as a private to sit in line, as we've seen lineups at the landfill sometimes, out the laneway and down the road, for him to sit there to do those turnarounds. That's not our job to keep him efficient, that's his. But on the other side, it's not efficient for our landfill to have that truck sitting in line 4 or 5 times on a Saturday while everybody else is coming and going. So he chose to pick Mondays to be in that area to dump those because it was in and out. It works for 8 months of the year. For 4 months of the year, he gets a $50 gate fee to come through with each load. So and all he does is it's cost, so he rolls that over to the customer. So $50 from property A, an hour later, he's through. $50 for property B, C, as he dumps the bins through the day. That's an extra $50 on the property owners of ACW to dump their garbage through this private hauler while staff is there. So that's why he brought this forward. He's just questioning when the staff is there, if, and it's efficient for him, and he feels it's more efficient for us to operate, for him to have his day as Monday. So my question would be, in the report, it talks about the cost of insuring always two employees at the landfill is approximately $5,500. Is that $5,500 already spent? Would that be extra? What would be required extra? Because there's still snow removal that is needed and stuff through the winter months when the trucks are coming in from curbside pickup. Could you explain that $5,500 or cost, please?
Perfect. Thank you for the question. Tom, please.
Yeah, so the $5,500 is the cost of having a second employee there. Yes, we would need occasionally to have someone come in to plow it. But seeing as we couldn't predict what the weather is going to be like throughout the winter, we just put down the cost of having another employee there. So you'd have one there to run the scale house anyway. Maybe you might have a second one there to plow if the first one's unable to do that.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Hickey?
That answered my question, and I look forward to other comments. And when it comes time, I'd like to make the motion for the follow-up report.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Follow up. Okay, thank you. Councillor Miltenberg, please, additional.
Yeah, interesting comments, Evan, and I hope it looks like we're going to get a report. But since we're making comments on private individuals, two different contractors have come to me wanting to know the dump's not open on Friday because they all work half a day on Friday. Then they have all their junk and they want to get rid of it. So why can't we do it Fridays? And I said, I don't know. There'll be a report coming next year because we're changing garbage stuff. We'll bring it up then. So in that report, I'm not saying it has to be opened up Fridays, but if it can't be, or we're not going to, I'd like an answer to that as well. Thank you.
Yep, staff will include that in the report. Any additional questions or comments? If not, I'm just going to ask for a show of hands if council is in support of a staff report coming back on this to a future meeting. I'm sorry, Tom, please.
If it's possible, the report that's coming back, you want to see the addition of a Friday and if I could get a bit more specific on what you want.
Yeah, you'd like some clarification, and I'm going to open it up to council. I think that would be what we would like to see in the report is options and the costs associated with those options. Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Yeah, so the comments that I hear are, why can't it be open Fridays for the contractors? The comments I hear are, why are you now closing it at 3? It's fine if you're open on Mondays, but now that they're not open at Mondays, 9 to 3, we're in a lineup all the time. You know, at the time we had valid reasons. I don't remember what they were, but these are questions that come forward. So it doesn't matter to me kind of what we decide, because as a group we will decide, but I would like to be able to answer that question. It is not open on Fridays because it costs $27 million or whatever it is, right? Or we're closing at 3 because of whatever the reason is, even though it's not open a second day. I would like answers. Or if, you know, a scenario, let's say we did it, this would be the cost, you know. Thank you.
Exactly. CAO, please.
Yeah, so Tom's report probably answers most of the questions other than opening up an extra day. So it doesn't have to be a Friday. We can just put in what it would cost to open up another day of the week, whether it be Monday, whether it be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. And I would like to also to include in that report, if council's receptive, because it was kind of mute and on the response, the consolidated fee bylaw that Tom look at what other neighbor municipalities are paying, because it's important that we keep our tonnage per ton up, similar as other municipalities, so we don't have people sneaking into our landfill sites. So I would recommend that perhaps council give Tom direction to do that as well in that report.
Absolutely. And the consolidated bylaw would be part of that. Okay. Councillor Forster, please.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. So I was driving by north here in landfill. They're open 3 days a week. Tuesday 9 to 5, Friday 9 to 5, and Saturday 9 to 2. But I've never sat in line on the road, so maybe 3 days a week is an idea. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Deputy Mayor, please.
Yeah, and I don't know how you would ever do this, but I know there's people from outside our community that's using their dump, and it'll fill up sooner or later. So, and I brought this up before, like maybe we should have a card or something for each municipality, or like each person in our municipality. But if it's not a big deal, like if it's going to cost more than it's worth, but it's just if you could look at that too when you do it, Tom, and just see, maybe, and I don't know how they would know, because I've asked up there, to be honest with you, I've asked. And they said, well, we don't know who it is. It's just garbage and it's people coming in. So, and the people we've got working there don't know everybody that lives here. So it may be you know, a frivolous ask, but anyways, if you could just mention that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. CAO, please.
So I've talked about this many times about the card system, and the card system does not work. I did it many years ago in Kinloss, and it did not work. And I give you examples. I feel like I'm still preaching the same preach I had before, but people change ownerships. The spouse might have it in her car, her husband doesn't. The kids may go to the landfill site. You can't use driver's license because we have folks from the college. It just doesn't work. It's an administrative nightmare, and it never ever works. So, and I don't expect anyone to know anyone who does come across a scale house. I would suggest that if someone does come across a scale house and they question whether or not they're resident, they could ask for a copy of their driver or take a look at the driver's license. But again, that's not going to answer the question either, because they could be a cottage owner. So the card system to access a landfill does not work. And I know that from past experience.
Okay, thanks for sharing that experience. Councillor Forster, please.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. My wife brought this up to me. She works for a dentist office in North Huron, and they don't pick up the recycling anymore. Is that the same here?
Tom, please.
Yeah, so when CMO transitioned to extended producer responsibility, the IC&I, which is industrial, commercial, and institutional locations, stopped getting pickup. Those locations were never supposed to get pickup in the first place, and they just were picked up. So we have in the township, without going through the businesses, there's about 2 locations, and I went and talked to I've talked to both of them, and they're going to get bins, or the second location that's such little recycling that they were just taking it to their house. Other like Huron Kinloss has 216 businesses that are affected, and they put a bin at their landfill site. Yeah, so for now, it's not a huge problem for ACW, but if there's other changes, we'll update them on the website.
So my question is why?
Because it costs money.
But everybody's
Recycling
supposed to recycle, right? And I just don't understand this.
Recycling costs money. When you have the person that produces the product that you want recycled to lose money, they will fight that. So if Coca-Cola or whoever, if it costs them money to recycle, they're going to say, well, we're going to shave off all of our expenses on this so that we make the most money possible.
Okay, I get you now. Thanks.
Okay, any further questions or comments? So I'm going to ask for show of hands for staff report on this, including the consolidated fee bylaw. And that is supported by council. Thank you. Do any members of council have a committee report that they would like to share at this time? Councillor Hickey, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I could ask Kelly to pull up that one map I asked you to. It's a report for Maitland Valley Conservation, just an update on the consolidation of the conservation areas. So this is a map that was put out by the province. The green is us, down south of Grand Bend, up to Tobermory, across through Collingwood, Lake Simcoe area, and then that little patch up in the corner by Thunder Bay. We've, as conservation areas, and I want to give a shout out to Asabo Bayfield, Maitland Valley, Saugeen, specifically from Maitland Valley, Ed McGugan, our chair, and he's a counselor for Huron Kinloss. He has been the spearhead to all this. I give him a lot of credit. I think he thinks about this 24/7. He really does. So this is what the province came out with, a map of how they wanted us. Ed in my opinion, Ed spearheaded with the other municipalities. Everybody deserves credit to this next map that Kelly's going to pull up. This is a proposed Lake Huron Regional Conservation Authority. So this map is the Huron Clean Water project. It goes down as far as Sarnia and it runs up along Lake Huron all the way, and it's cut off at the top, but all the way up through Wyerton and Tobermory. It's right there. So this is a working group, the Lake Huron Region Conservation Authority proposed area that we are proposing back to the province as an alternative. The map shows the Huron Lake Huron, or the Healthy Lake Huron extended area south of Sarnia up to Tobermory, inland to Listowel and Mount Forest. It covers some of the best agricultural land in the province and is predominantly rural with some significant sized towns of Kincardine, Hanover, and Exeter. It includes the Port of Goderich, as well as the Bruce Nuclear Generation Station, as significant economic importance to the province. The areas proposed cover all of Bruce County, almost all of Huron, significant portions of Grey and Perth, and small parts of Wellington, and then down to the south into Lambton and into Middlesex. The proposal is to have a lower tier municipality group together to nominate and select board members. It's being proposed 12 board members across that section. And then it's also proposing small boundary lines just so there's not a sliver of a municipality cut off into another conservation authority. So there's slight boundary realignments being proposed. In this proposal, the existing headquarters for Asabo Bayfield in Exeter, Maitland Valley in Roxeter, and Saugeen Valley in Formosa would be maintained for the near future as boots on the ground staff to keep it local for the areas. The head office is being proposed that would supervise the whole and manage the finances, human resources, and other executive tasks. It's being discussed on location where. That is still being talked about. This idea of the Lake Huron Regional Authority, actually, I'll go back. Where is it? So of the 12 proposed board members in that area, just to give you an idea, ACW would be part of the Huron County Northwest board member seat, which would be ACW and the town of Goderich. So I think that's a pretty good area. So we'd have one representative across both townships or both tiers, and then it would be responsible, say, for our council member to go into the town of Goderich to report to them on the behalf of Maitland Valley, or the new one. This idea was talked about to MPP Thompson in January. She provided a letter of support, and a meeting was held with MPP McCarthy of the Minister of Environment, Park Conservation and Parks on January 20th. He seemed receptive of it, so he's taken it back. So based on that success, they're going to produce a preliminary guide to move forward. The next step is to communicate with all municipalities and conservation authorities noted in the proposal and to set up a meeting to discuss the viability of the proposal. So just an update, that's where, and talking to Ed last night via text, he'd be willing to come to council to talk more in depth about it in the future while this talk is going on. So this is a draft proposal. MPP Thompson seems to be receptive of it. McCarthy seems to be receptive of it, and we'll see where it goes from here. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, and congratulations on this initiative, because the government needs to have options to what they have proposed. Clerk, please.
Could you just remind me what it's proposed to be called?
The proposed Lake Huron Region Conservation Authority.
Thank you.
Well done, Evan. Questions or comments? So we'll see where this goes, and hopefully we'll hear back from the minister on this. Is there any additional committee reports? I'll go to Councillor Miltenberg, please.
Yeah, the St. Helens Fish Fry was Saturday night, sold out, well attended. A lot of extra people came in to help. Having a meeting this week about it and how we're going to go forward in the future. So, so far it's good.
Okay, thank you for that. Any additional committee reports? Seeing none, is there any new business that anyone would like to bring forward at this time for a future meeting? We do have some correspondence for direction, and that being 15-1, the Huron County Smoking and Vaping Bylaw. And I would entertain a mover and a seconder for this, please. Deputy Mayor Van Stone moves, a seconder, Councillor Miltenberg. And I'll read the motion that Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Council hereby consents pursuant to Section 115 of the Municipal Act 2001 to the enactment of an updated smoking bylaw by the Council of the County of Huron, including the repeal of County of Huron Bylaw number 2003-21, respecting the regulation of smoking and vaping in public places and workplaces within the County of Huron. And further, that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the clerk of the County of Huron for the purpose of satisfying the consent requirements under the Municipal Act 2001. Questions or comments on this? All in favor of the motion? And that is carried. Thank you. Under correspondence for information, that being the Good Roads Association request for municipal delegations. Do we have any requests for delegations on this? Councillor Miltenberg, please.
I'm just going to question for whatever that guy's name is, Evan. Based on what he just said, I'm going to assume that someone's making a presentation about the big Lake Huron draft, yada, yada. You're nodding, so I'm assuming we don't need to do it. Someone's doing it.
Thanks for the question. Councillor Hickey, would you like to make a comment?
Yep. Our chair, Ed McGugan, has had the support of Huron Kinloss and their mayor, Don Murray, and they're kind of behind that right now.
Okay. Anything else on anyone's mind for this? If not, we do have for information the property standards minutes of the 8th of January and the MVCA minutes of the 17th. Moving on to 17-1, the OGRA conference, the end of March, 1st of April. Councillor Forster and myself are registered. And for the AMO conference, Councillor Miltenberg and myself are registered. So we'll move on to bylaws, and that being the consolidated fee bylaw, and I'll entertain a mover and a seconder for this, please. Moved by Councillor Forster, second by Councillor Miltenberg, that leave be given to introduce bylaw number 06-2026, being a bylaw to set various fees for the Township of Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh, and then now be read severally, a first, second, and third time, and finally pass the 17th day of February 2026. Any questions or comments? Councillor Snoblin, please.
This is just to clarify and make sure I'm on the right bylaw, this is the bylaw for the building department, is that correct?
Clerk, please.
This is the consolidated fee bylaw, so those building permit fees are incorporated into this bylaw.
Right, and can I just ask one more question, please? So the fees you mentioned, Joy, where they were accrued based on the consumer price index, is that right, from 2020 to 2025? Is there a plan in place by the building department going forward with any further increases that they'll come on an annual, biannual basis, or will they continue to come every 5 years?
Thank you for that. Joy, please.
The price increases took place on an as-needed basis in the past. We do not have a plan for future price increases, but we can definitely look at it.
Okay, thank you. Follow up, please.
No follow-up. I sometimes get concerned when, whether it's a household or a municipality or whatever entity you want to talk about, when you go too long without increasing fees and then you have such a huge increase all at once, it sometimes is a bitter pill to swallow. And I understand where you're coming from, and I don't disagree with what you're proposing. I guess I just need to, as a council member going forward, would like to see that these fees are, maybe looked at on a more regular basis as opposed to every 5 years, so that further council members don't have to look at this and make the same questions and observations that I have. That it just seems like it's a bitter pill to swallow. I will support it, but I would like to see going forward to have those fees done on a more regular basis as opposed to every 5 years. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Any additional questions or comments? If not, I'll ask if for support of this bylaw. Show of hands, please. And that is supported by council. Thank you. 18.2 is a Shetler ZBA, and I'll entertain a mover and a seconder for this, please. Councillor Hickey moves, Councillor Blake seconds, that leave be given to introduce bylaw number 07-2026, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 32-2008, as amended for the Township of Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh, and then it now be read severally, a first, second, and third time, and finally pass the 17th day of February 2026. Questions, comments? All in favor of this bylaw? And that is supported by council. Thank you. 18.3 is the intake 2 of the transfer payment agreement, and I will entertain a mover and a seconder for this, please. Councillor Forrester moves, Councillor Miltenberg seconds, that leave be given to introduce bylaw number 2008, bylaw 08-2026, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a transfer payment agreement for the Housing Enabling Water Systems Fund, intake 2 between the Majesty the King in right of Ontario, as represented by the Minister of Infrastructure and the Corporation of the Township of Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh, and then it now be read severally, a first, second, and third time, and finally pass the 17th day of February 2026. Questions, comments? All those that are in support of this bylaw? And that is supported by council. Thank you. 18.4 is the appointment of the Public Works employees, and I will entertain a mover and a seconder. Councillor Blake moves, Councillor Miltenberg seconds, that leave be given to introduce bylaw number 09-2026, being a bylaw to appoint public works positions for the Township of Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh, and that it now be read severally, a first, second, and third time, and finally pass the 17th day of February 2026. Questions, comments? All in support of this bylaw? And that's supported by council. Thank you. And finally, the pothole prevention and repair program of the transfer payment agreement. A mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Hickey moves, Councillor Forrester seconds, that leave be given to introduce bylaw number 10-2026, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a transfer payment agreement for the pothole prevention and repair program between His Majesty the King and the Right of Ontario, as represented by the Honourable Minister for Transportation and the Corporation of the Township of Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh, and then it now be read severally, a first, second, and third time, and finally pass the 17th day of February 2026. Questions, comments? All in favor of this bylaw? And that is supported. Thank you. We do have a closed session today, and I would entertain a mover and a seconder to move into our closed session. Councillor Blake moves, Councillor Forrester seconds, that Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Council move into a closed session in accordance with section 239 in brackets 2 in brackets C of the Municipal Act, with the CAO, clerk, and the Public Works Superintendent remaining in attendance at 10:12 a.m. for the purpose of discussing a proposed or pending acquisition of land by the municipality, that being a public ownership of a private road. All in favor of this motion? And that is supported by council. Hubby, we have a break until 10:20 to provide our We are back in our regular council meeting, and I will ask the clerk for her comments and reporting out of our closed session, please.
There's nothing to report at this time.
Thank you. We do have the confirmatory bylaw, and I will ask for a mover and a seconder for this, please. Deputy Mayor moves, Councillor Hickey seconds that that leave be given to introduce bylaw number 11-2026, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Township of Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Council meeting held on February 17th, 2026, and that it now be read severally, a first, second, and third time, and finally pass the 17th day of February, 2026.
Sorry, I just missed who seconded that.
The Councillor Hickey.
Who moved it then? Sorry.
Deputy Mayor Van Stone.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor of the motion is read. And that is carried. And a motion to adjourn, please. Councillor Blake moves, Councillor Forrester seconds that Ashfield-Colborne-Wawanosh Township Council does now adjourn to meet again on the 3rd day of March, 2026 at 9 a.m. or at the call on the mayor. All in favor of this motion. And that is carried. Thank you very much. And thank you all for your participation today. Meeting adjourned.